Good morning. It is 5:40 p.m. and I am in my car again, but I'm not in the Seton Hall parking lot. I am at the Kenilworth Public Library parking lot with a newly broken side mirror and a lot of scrapes on the left side of my car. Why? Because I can't park in the Seton Hall garage. I'm really bad at it, but it's okay. I'll get better. And yeah, that is that. All right, let's talk about football. So I hate talking about the Giants, and they were last week's Thursday game, so I'll talk about it first. Wow. Okay, very winnable game. The Giants really outplayed Washington on every facet of the ball except for pass rush, with the key denominator being Washington didn't screw up any plays, right? So what I'm trying to say is the Giants' self-inflicted damage was what lost them that game by a large margin between all the drops and the Dexter Lawrence penalty. When they missed that field goal, I was doing the worm. Like, I no joke, I put my drink down, I started doing the worm, and I turned around to see a flag was called, and I was like, oh no. And naturally, I knew that it was going to have to be on the Giants because it's just my luck, and that's what it was. So yeah, Giants are a disappointment. They're a better team than Washington. You know what? No, I'll stop. Because good teams don't make mistakes. Even if they win games because the other team makes mistakes, you're a better team if you win games. So yeah, never mind. Sorry. I'm sorry for lying. I apologize. It's hard to face reality. Here's another hard to face reality. The Raiders might actually be good despite the fact that they largely have the same personnel on a team that was really not good last year, namely on the offensive line and defensive line. Derek Carr has thrown for almost over 800 yards in the first 2 weeks, actually, if I'm not mistaken. In fact, I'm going to look that up now. Let's see. Derek Carr passing yards. I thought it was like 820 something. All right. I naturally looked up Derek Farr. That's not Derek Carr. Yeah, 817 passing yards in 2 games. He's on that Ryan Fitzpatrick Tampa Bay pace right now. That's all I had to say about that. I think the Raiders are the worst of the 2-0 teams. Honestly, I think that they've been very lucky and very fortunate. The Steelers practically combusted like the 49ers did last year with injuries against the Raiders, which really helped. It killed my 50 to win 320 parlay. I had the Steelers as one of my 4 money lines there, but you know what? It's okay. It's okay. That's not okay. 49ers beat the Eagles. What wasn't a surprise was the win. The surprise was that the 49ers only scored 17 points. And I guess that the Eagles only scored 11, but I guess that regression just shows how bad Atlanta's defense is. But the 49ers should have scored more. A little worried for them. The Cardinals are probably the second best team in that division. I'll stand by that. The Rams are the best. So I guess that leaves the 49ers at 4 because the Seahawks are kind of better than them. Though the Seahawks aren't 2-0. Texans and Browns. Texans are just continuing to be impressive despite being largely unimpressive. Only losing by 10 to the Browns. So that tells you where the expectations are for the Texans, that we're actually surprised that they only lost by 10. But now without Tyrod Taylor, I don't know how they're going to do this week. What I will say is every time Tyrod Taylor has had a rookie replace him, right, whether it was Josh Allen, whether it was Baker Mayfield, whether it was, who was the last guy, Justin Herbert, they all won in those games replacing, with the only difference being that Josh Allen wasn't in season. So there's a really weird precedent possible being set here, and that'd be a funny like ESPN stats, like rookie quarterback starting the first game after Tyrod Taylor is hurt/benched, 3-0. So we'll see how that goes, but I don't think Texans are winning this week. Broncos beat the Jags. The Broncos are kind of legit. They're on the kind of legit scale, right? It's like, are they between 15? Are they the 15th best team or the 20th best team? I don't know, but they're somewhere in there. Not better, not worse. The Panthers are flirting with being really legit because they're better than the Saints. And I'm not saying that just because they beat the Saints in one single game, it's one regular season game, division rival game. I'm saying their defense is hot. Their defense is hot, and it's nasty, and it's disgusting. And in all the good ways that those words mean when being used in a sports context. The Panthers' defense is ridiculous. Sam Darnold is all right. Gotta love Darny boy. And the offense is good otherwise. So the Panthers are the bounce-back team, and Matt Rule is doing a great job with this team. The Saints are going to have to live through all the colors of Jameis Winston. Is he going to be great? Is he going to be crap? Is he going to throw 500 yards and 4 picks? Is he going to throw 150 yards and 5 touchdowns? We don't know. He's a wild card. He's a pure dice roll. All right? He's a Dungeons and Dragons dice roll. But the Panthers are better than the Saints. Rams beat the Colts. Saw that coming. I was surprised that the Rams didn't cover 3.5. But, is what it is. Bills beat the Dolphins. That was pretty expected. Not in that fashion, even with Tua being hurt. That's really just kind of a shame that offensive line is that bad. But I don't think the offensive line is that bad. I just think the Bills had to play a really good bounce-back game after getting bounced by the Steelers, because the Steelers' offensive line was by no means impressive either, and they weren't doing nearly what they did against the Dolphins. Patriots and Jets. If you had asked me last week to guess a score, I would have said something like this, like 25-6 was the score. I probably would have said probably like 24-6, 24-7. The Jets are just horrendous. Bears beat the Bengals. I was surprised. I was surprised by that, especially because they won it with Fields coming in halfway through the game because Dalton was hurt. Bucks blew out the Falcons, and it was kind of an ugly blowout. Like, the game was like Bucks were killing them, and then it got lightly close, and the Bucks kind of just took the gloves off. Cardinals and Vikings, I almost lost $150 on because at halftime I did a bunch of different parlays with the under 74.5, and they really flirted with it, 34-33, but did not lose that. Titans beat the Seahawks, very surprised. Titans are back to flukiness. They're a good fluky team though, they're fluky bad 30% of games, and then the 70% of games they're great. And the Seahawks are just kind of the Seahawks. They've ever since Russell Wilson became deep ball Jesus, they've been something. They've been really good football, really good to watch. Cowboys and Chargers. The Chargers have no offensive identity, and I'm surprised because they've bringing in Joe Brady, offensive coordinator, and switching the head coach up. I'm just surprised that the offense has been the problem for the Chargers. I really thought it was going to be the defense, and maybe the Chargers just have growing pains with all that, and that could be it too. It could be quarter one of the season, the Chargers have a mediocre offense, and quarter two through the rest of the year, they have a great offense. It's very possible. New coaching, all that fun stuff. Guy in his second year with new coaches, which is always a struggle. It's no fair, but that's where we're at. Cowboys defense played impressively well, considering the fact they're not a great unit. Chiefs and Ravens. I'm surprised that the Ravens won the way that they did. I thought that they could win, but outscoring the Chiefs at the end of that game and the forcing the Chiefs into miscues in the fourth quarter, it was really well coached game. Lamar Jackson did everything in his power. He's kind of like Rocky in Rocky 2, and the last 3 times he played Mahomes was like Rocky 1, like Apollo, Mahomes never lost in September. Mahomes has never lost X amount of primetime games or some weird stat. Mahomes has never lost to Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. And then Lamar Jackson said, okay, and? Question mark. Packers and Lions first half was awesome. I love Jared Goff there. I love Dan Campbell there. But the second half, the Packers had to remind us who they are. And that's it for last week. Other thoughts are that Tom Brady is ridiculous. Kyler Murray is going to be the MVP. You could hammer me there. I really, truly feel like Kyler Murray's the MVP. It's going to happen. The Giants' best thing going for them on offense is Daniel Jones. And that point will get proven in the next 2 weeks. I really feel that way. And that is an abstract opinion because I was a hugely anti-Daniel Jones guy, and now I'm kind of flipping over to the coaching. I don't know. It's hard to gauge the Giants. They're just mediocre. Derek Carr's not going to keep up this rate. Oakland is going to slow down. 49ers are 2-0 right now, but I bet that they don't finish in the playoffs. The Browns will win that division. And any other... No, because everything else kind of makes sense. Like Rams will win their division. Bills will win their division. If Tom Brady didn't bring everybody back, I would say that the division was a little open with Carolina playing the way they are now. But if they beat Tampa, that kind of changes everything. But I don't see that occurring. It's unreasonable. And we will parlay Panthers into week 3, Thursday night, against the Texans. Panthers by 20. Whatever the biggest alt spread is on that game, I might put $25 on. The Panthers are going to kill the Texans. The Texans the Texans were being floated by Tyrod's good play and by playing offenses that had problems. Okay, Jacksonville's offense was having problems. The Browns were without Odell and lost Jarvis halfway through the game. The Browns' offense had problems. The Panthers' offense is all problems in the opposite sense. Okay, Robbie Anderson's a problem. DJ Moore's a problem. Sam Darnold is somehow, some way a problem. Christian McCaffrey is the biggest problem in the sport. So the Panthers are going to cause the Texans some problems. Wow, I've said problems about as many times as Allen Iverson said practice. I just hear it. Every time I say problem, I hear practice. I'm talking about practice. Now I'm talking about the Chiefs and the Chargers. Chiefs blowout. Cardinals, Jaguars. Cardinals blowout. Bears, Browns. This could be a really, really weird Bears win with Fields. I mean, Fields is going to get all the first-team reps. And we've seen quarterbacks do this before. These rookie quarterbacks get 1 week in and the other team doesn't really have enough on them, so the game plan doesn't... Wow. Matt Nagy has the privilege of starting a talented quarterback where the other team doesn't know what he's going to do with him. And I think that because of that, the Bears could sneakily win this game, despite the fact that the Browns are by far, large and away, a better football team. Washington and the Bills. It's the Bills' game to lose, but Heineke Light is kind of a better than average game manager. And if the Bills get into any sort of trouble like they did against the Steelers, against Washington's front seven, the game could get really interesting. I think the Bills will win, but I don't trust them to win by a lot. Colts versus Titans. I love these division games, especially against two teams which are really good, but the Titans have a light edge between the issues that the Colts offensive line has been facing since Costanzo retired. I think that was overlooked a little bit since their offensive line was so good with him, but Quentin Nelson can't do everything. The right tackle's hurt, and their quarterback just sprained both his ankles. I don't even know how. I would imagine he was doing pirouettes or something, like ballet-esque. I don't know. So I'm going to say Titans. Saints and Patriots, we're going to go Patriots. I will take the Saints to beat any team which has 11 through 32 ranked defense. So because they're playing the Patriots of all teams with the greatest coach of all time and a defense which will finish in the top 5 this year, this is going to be a Jameis Winston crap show. Just really, really high odds this is a Jameis Winston crap show. Crap, not crab. Not to bring up old news. Falcons and Giants. I just want to go Giants so bad from a logistical standpoint. But as a fan, I just know it's not going to... Like, Matt Ryan's going to have his first good game of the year. He's going to have his best game since, like, he was an MVP in 2016. I don't know. I don't know what happens here. I'm going to say Giants. I have to say something. I'm going to say Giants. All right, the rest of these are all, okay, most of these are easy to me. Steelers over Bengals, Ravens over Lions. Okay, actually, back up. Triple take. Bengals over Steelers. The Steelers have a lot of injuries and there's a lot of hyperbole. I'm going to take the Bengals over the Steelers because the last time they played with similar issues, the Bengals won, and the Bengals are better now than last time. Okay, Bengals over Steelers. Still saying Ravens over Lions. Broncos over Jets without Bradley Chubb. I think that the Jets' offensive line is so bad. Like, there's plays you got guys blocking each other. You've got people out in the open with nobody in front of them, and meanwhile, Zach Wilson's getting murdered. I think, I know Bradley Chubb's not playing for a little bit now, but they could probably put in their worst roster defensive end, and if they scheme him well, he might get 2 or 3 sacks against this Jets offensive line. They're just bad. They are bad. All right, this game is going to kill me because I know the Raiders are going to beat the Dolphins, but when I thought Tua was going to play, I thought the Dolphins were going to beat the Raiders, and I put a $50 bet on it. So, basically, I can't cash that out. I need Jacoby Brissett to play like he did those first 6 weeks with the Colts a few years ago when Andrew Luck retired. It's the only way it happens because the Raiders are playing way above their pay grade. Bucs-Rams is a sexy, saucy game. First off, the uniforms. It's kind of hot. The red versus the blue, the off-red and the off-blue. The teams are really attractive, right? The 2 best teams in the NFC. These are 1A and 1B best teams in the NFC. I don't want to bet against the Bucs, but it's more likely early season that the Bucs lose a game like this than late season, so I'm going to go Rams. And it's hard for me to do that, but I'm going Rams. Seahawks Vikings. This is a trap game because the Seahawks should win, but this is just a weird sort of situation where the Vikings would win. They have a lot of ways which they could abuse the Seahawks' weaknesses on the ground and out wide. Could be interesting. Seahawks should win, but I think it's a trap. Packers 49ers. This will be the first time Aaron Rodgers beat the 49ers in recent memory. This 49ers team is not the team that it was a couple years ago. And, I was going to say I'm worried for them, but then I decided to say, because I felt like that implied the same thing. I don't know. I'm a little tired. And then Monday, we have Eagles-Cowboys. Nothing like an NFC East crap show game for our only Monday night game. I mean, the Cowboys will probably win the division versus the Eagles, who, if the Eagles lose this game, they have no chance to win the division, but I don't know. If the Eagles win, it gauges, that they're good, which also means the 49ers are better than I think, because they just lost to them by like a really bad amount. But not a bad amount, but 17-11. Those 6 points, it matters a little more than 36-30. The Cowboys are a good football team, though. Legitimately a good football team, so we'll see. That's it for that. If I wanted to give a lock, like a game where it's 50-50, but I'm going to lock somebody to win, I think I'm going to say Bengals over Steelers. And the Steelers are at home, I'm pretty sure, too. I have the list in front of me now. It doesn't say home or away. It just has the one team on top and the one team on bottom. And I believe the team that's on bottom is at home. So that is where my rationale is there. I don't think home or away matters when you're playing a team that has an injured quarterback and like 3 injured defensive players and an injured offensive lineman and an injured wide receiver. I don't think it's the lack of home field that's going to be the reason they dropped that one. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, the NFL season's starting off really interesting this year, mostly because of the teams that are 2-0. Half of them were teams which we weren't expecting to be. I was expecting the Cardinals to be. I think the Cardinals are a great team. I took a 6-leg parlay. A 6-leg at $20 to win $420 at plus 2,000 odds for the Cardinals this season. Here's the 6 props. I've memorized them off the top of my head. I don't even have the bet in front of me. It's not on DraftKings anymore if you look. It shouldn't be anyways. We're 2 games into the year, but it wasn't before the season started either. It was only there for like a week. Anyways. Cardinals make the playoffs, leg 1. Leg 2, Kyler Murray over 3,000.5 passing yards and 26.5 passing touchdowns. Leg 3, Kyler Murray over 846.5 rushing yards. Leg 4, DeAndre Hopkins over 1,300.5 receiving yards. Leg 5, J.J. Watt over 5.75 sacks, because if he has 5.5 sacks, that doesn't matter. And that was it. Oh, sorry, I combined 2 of them, but it's 6 legs. And it's all going to hit. His team's going to win 13 games. Kyler Murray is going to be the MVP. J.J. Watt will have one weird game where he gets 3 sacks, which will make up that. He'll finish the year at 6 sacks. And that will be that. The other bet I took season long, which is not looking good, which I thought was really good. It was 50 to win 300. It was like plus 750 odds. I believe that's what it was. For Evan Ingram, Kenny Golladay, and Kadarius Toney to combine for 15-plus receiving touchdowns. And it could happen. There could just be like 3 games which really kind of hold that one together. But we got 0 to any of those guys so far this year. It is not looking good. They refuse to play Toney. Ingram's hurt. And then they refuse to throw to Golladay. So, I don't know. I kind of wish I can go back in time and find that prop again, but with Sterling Shepard as any of those 3. But it is what it is. I've been pretty good with the betting otherwise, but I don't feel comfortable trying to make this a betting podcast. So I'll say some bets that win and lose, but I'm not going to be going up and down. Here's my portfolio. Here's my locks. Here's my picks of the day. No, there's other people who do that. Other people with more credibility than me. Other people with a lot more sustained success than me. Other people who you would listen to more than me. Now, me personally, I believe I have a pretty educated and intelligent football opinion, but I'm not going to enforce that on everybody. You know, it's not FDA approved. I'm not enforcing it on anybody. I'm not making you take it. Oh, that comment's apolitical. Do not take that comment left or right. That was just a matter-of-fact joke. Yeah, I'm not really sure what I look forward to watching this week. Other than Bucks Rams, I'm going to do everything in my power to find a way to watch that and watch every single second of it. But other than that, it's early season and my football enthusiasm is down because my favorite team already has like a 13% chance to make the playoffs because they're crap. But yeah, hopefully this week they beat the Falcons and we get some enthusiasm. Some enthusiasm on the building would be nice. This is going straight to YouTube because even though it's been 3 weeks since I've originally asked and it's been 12 days since I last heard from them, I still don't have the free podcast software. But we are surviving. We're thriving. We're out here. At the quarter of the season, so not next episode, but the episode after, I'm going to do grades for all the teams. I want to start talking more about fantasy football. I'll do that a little bit now. I think that Cortland Sutton is a lock to play this week. If you have Cooper Kupp, I think he's going to be the fantasy wide receiver 5 this whole year. I would lock him. If you're a Saquon owner who's been hoping and praying and waiting for the beam of light from heaven to come down and give him 15 to 20 touches, it should happen this week. This should be the week against this Atlanta defense where Saquon gets his normal volume. I'm heavily invested in that in a lot of my leagues. Chase Claypool is going to be a good play this week with Ben probably not playing, with Haskins playing, because Claypool is just the perfect type of bomb it deep to him and give him those yards kind of guy, especially without Deontay Johnson there. I mean, he was their big play guy last year. I knew that role was going to expand this year. I was surprised he wasn't a first-round pick, Claypool, especially with how versatile he is and how great of an athlete he is, but he wasn't. He ended up in Pittsburgh, and he is going to be a great streaming candidate in fantasy. He could end up being a consistent guy, but the way that they use him Like, yeah, you see 9 targets. You're like, oh, he got targeted 9 times and only caught 3. He didn't only catch 3 because there was good defense or he was dropping them. He only caught 3 because 5 of those balls that were thrown to him were like ridiculous deep balls. He got most of his 70 yards last week on a 51-yard catch at the end of the game. That was a mouthful. I had to take a deep breath. Damien Harris is an interesting running back. I think that he's the type of guy who's just going to... I'm talking about the Patriots running back, by the way, for anybody who doesn't know. I think that he is going to do what Sony Michel did his rookie year towards the end of it. I think that they are going to throw him 16 to 20 carries a game, and I think he's going to slog his way to 15 fantasy points a week, which will eventually finish to be like between running back 9 to 11. But he's never going to have like crazy games, but he probably won't have bad games either. He's just going to be the consistent 14 to 15 point guy. I think DJ Moore is going to be great in fantasy this year because Darnold loves him and he loves himself more than any of Darnold's other wide receivers ever, except for Jamison Crowder. And what I mean by that is he doesn't drop balls, and he is a great throw it up and see what happens guy. And Darnold likes to do that, so just roll with it. Keep it simple. I've been surprised to see Jared Goff's success, but I don't know. He might be an interesting fantasy quarterback in the same way there was a year where Blake Bortles was a good fantasy quarterback, because when he plays, there's so many times where they're down by a lot that he's got to throw 100, 200 yards. Like all of Drew Brees' 6 and 10 or 7 and 9 years where he threw 5,000 yards because he's just railing it in garbage time. He could be a good fantasy quarterback because of that. Another interesting fantasy quarterback, depending on the league you're in, Daniel Jones is between quarterback 4 to 9. Okay, I'm actually looking at a weird scoring league. Let me go to a real league really quick, because that one he's 9, but I could have swore I just saw he was quarterback 4. Yes, in normal scoring, Daniel Jones is quarterback 4. And it's largely because of the numbers he adds on the ground. So week 1 and 2, 267 and 249 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown each game. 27 rushing yards, 1 touchdown against Denver, 95 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdown against Washington. And on top of that, he had a 50-yard touchdown run called back against Washington on a hold, which a lot of Giants fans say didn't happen. I'm going to go on the record and be the voice of reason and say it did happen. And it's really stupid that it happened because it wasn't really impacting the play. Kirk Cousins, like always, is a low-owned good fantasy quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater's been a good fantasy quarterback. A lot of these are aberrations. Like last year, Cam Newton was the fantasy quarterback 1 through 3 weeks with his like 250 rushing yards and his 350 passing yard game. So I wouldn't think about that one too much. Mike Davis will probably have his first breakout fantasy game as the starting running back for the Falcons against the Giants. Not because of the way they run him, but the way that they throw the ball to him in the open field. I mean, he had 7 catches last week, 3 week 1, 15 rushes. He is a 15 to 20 touch a week running back. People who took Mike Davis was being drafted in like the 8th round in a lot of leagues. That's kind of nuts. He's way better than that. It's looking like Mike Williams is finally going to break out and have a good fantasy year. I don't want to overreact because he's had the 82 and 91 yard and a touchdown in both game performance. 22.2 and 22.1 fantasy points in both his games. However, the targets are there, 12 and 10. They'll probably stay there. He gets more separation than Keenan Allen, for example, and Keenan Allen is also 29, and where he is in his contract and his injury history. Even though he hasn't missed time in a while, the injury history's got to be in the back of the mind of the Chargers who paid him money. So I would imagine that Williams is going to be, he's like the wide receiver 2 who's the fantasy wide receiver 1, if that makes sense. Those guys exist. They pop up once every few years, and that's who he is. And I think that he could finish as the fantasy wide receiver 10 to 15. So I would just keep rolling with Mike Williams until the Chargers stop, and I don't know if they will. Rondale Moore is a interesting target for the Cardinals. He's having early and instant success, and I think that they are just going to keep rolling with him there. I've only been talking about good guys. I haven't talked about people I'd fade. George Kittle's scaring me. Same reason Saquon's scaring me. While I said that the volume will be there for Saquon, the way that he's been playing, it's like he's trying not to get hurt. And I would be concerned about that as a fantasy owner. I'm concerned about Ezekiel Elliott because it seems that since Dallas has been paying him this money, even that, because the knock against Zeke last year was easily with how bad he performed relative to his other performances. He was good last year. It's the fact that the offensive line was hurt and Dak was hurt, so it was like really easy to be like, oh, okay, well, he was just in a bad situation. But now he's not. Pollard's running the ball more, which is funny because I was even surprised he was still on the roster this year because he's really just kind of been there, not really doing much, just existing. I feel like every running back 2 or 3 in the NFL can do exactly what he's been doing for them. But I guess that's also why he has his job, because he knows the system and all that. But Zeke's been blocking more. Zeke's been running the ball less, higher efficiency. But it seems that with them paying him the $90 million over 6 years, they decided they want their investment safe. So I'm worried about that from a fantasy perspective. I'm not worried about Kenny Golladay, but I will be after this week if he doesn't perform well. Debo Samuel has been awesome. Really, really just great in fantasy. And it was funny because he was a big breakout candidate last year and he got hurt, so it's not a surprise to see him this year. I am off DJ Chark. A lot of people were on him last year. Same thing with Kenny and Drake, but I mean, that's a different situation. He's a running back too there. But DJ Chark, he's had every opportunity to be good, and he's just struggling with fantasy relevance, so I would just stay away from that. And Lev Bell, I don't know if he'll ever actually end up playing in a game. He's washed up. He was a system running back with the Steelers, and that's a little rude to say for somebody who performed so well, but their offensive line was well. They had good blocking receivers and tight ends. Those couple of years he was pacing the league and everything. So that explains that more. I'm not worried about Clyde unless he's not good this week. It's relative. I'm not worried about any Tampa Bay receiver except for, what am I blanking on his name? Mike Evans. I don't know why I would feel like with Tom Brady throwing the ball deeper more often that Mike Evans would be the guy to benefit from that, but he seems to be the odd man out and the third best receiver on that team. No, not seems. He is the third best receiver on that team. And the last thing I will say, I don't know. Mark Ingram seems to be running away with the Texans running back job. That's the last thing I'll say. Mark Ingram, in his retirement era of running back at 32 or 33 years old, is running away with the Texans running back job. So I would add him on all formats. If you don't, he's only rostered in 35% of leagues, and most of those are probably 12 and 14 person leagues. So yeah, look at Mark Ingram. That's the last thing I'm going to say. The last words I'm going to say are, and I quote, Mark Ingram,